Yep. That should do nicely. Hey everyone, welcome back. So wanted to share a little project that I just finished up on the garage. It took a while. There's several weekends of just installing this, but it'll be well worth it this winter. So take a look. Yep, we now have heat in the garage. So before we walk up there and take a look here at the furnace, let me show you what we got done outside. This is a natural gas furnace, Big Maxx by Mr. Heater, 80,000 BTU. And like I said, there's a lot of work involved. So there's a lot of work involved in installing these heaters. It's not just plug them in and go. The biggest portion of the work was the gas line install. So I'll start out by showing you what we did for the gas line install. And the best way to show you is to start from actually the house where the gas line comes down to the building. So let's walk up there and take a look. So here's what we got going on at the house. You can see the main line comes in right here, goes into the meter, tees off into the house, and then this goes down to the garage with a shut off. So I had the plumber actually install that early on when I first had the building built, before the concrete and everything was there, which I guess didn't matter because the gas line never goes into the building. It sits on the outside, but he did run the water line in, so I had him do it at the same time. So it does increase in size. This is 1 inch, it goes to 1.25 inches down to the riser. And then it's poly pipe that runs a few hundred feet. You can't even see it now. The grass has grown pretty good. But it does run all the way down to the building down there. So we'll walk down there and I'll show you what's on the outside. So here's what we got going on the outside of the building. You can see here's where the poly pipe comes up to the riser. Again, that's 1.25 inches. And then we brought it back down to 1 inch. 1.25 inches was basically for the length of the line. Gas pipes, kind of different. I mean, you really want some volume when you're going long distances like that to support the number of BTUs. So the plumber chose 1.25 inches, said that would be fine. And then he stopped right here at this valve. So he put the valve in for me and then put the plug. And then I finished the rest when I did the install here recently. So from here, I ran 1 inch through inside the building there, and I'll show you where it comes on in the inside. So it may be hard to see down there, but that's where it's coming in from the inside. It's elbowing in. And then from here, it goes up. I do have a T right there with a plug. So if I ever need to, I can add something else additional later. I haven't decided if I want to stub that all the way out to the wall or just leave it in the wall. I probably will stub it out and just put a little cap on there so I have it on the outside, easy to get to. And then from here, it runs straight across the outside wall girts. And that was the hardest part. I didn't want it on the inside because I'm going to finish these walls. I know a lot of guys do put them on the inside of these posts, but I wanted a nice clean look. I wanted it concealed. And especially since I'm using black iron, I should never have any problems with leaks or driving a nail through them. That stuff is really thick. The other issue I had running it that way though was, well, I guess it wasn't really an issue, it's just more work. But I couldn't run 10-foot lengths behind. These posts are roughly about 8-foot centers. There's no flex in black iron. So every length of pipe we had to cut and thread down to get them behind there. And just turning the couplers, you can kind of see in every spot we had to turn them. It did tear up the vapor barrier a little bit. So I had to go through and patch behind every one of them. But from here, we run all the way over. Here's the other trouble spot. So I do want to finish this corner at some point with, you know, insulation and a wall. So I had to run this as tight as I could to this wall. I couldn't run this one behind the post. There was no clearance back there. You could not get an elbow behind there whatsoever. You can see it's notched, but this is structural. It's not notched. This is not. This is just shimming it out to match because this is a corner and the posts are flipped on the corners. So we just notched this non-structural piece here, and that just hugged it a little bit tighter against the wall so that when I put my finish gird on the inside, if you can see there, and then I'm going to run another one up right in here, another one will come across for the sidewall, that elbow does not stick out past it if you look. So I'll be able to finish this corner no problem. But once we got that, then we just kind of worked our way in each direction of the building. So we'll continue on the back wall here. And it just runs straight across that girt. And then we start to elbow it up by the furnace. And again, we're still behind the actual post. So when we finish the wall, this will be concealed. So we come up with an elbow 1 inch down to 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch is what the furnace takes. You have your union, your drip leg, your valve. Just because people like numbers, I did get a quote or an estimate from an actual plumber to run this same gas line. His quote with materials was $1,750. Not horrible for the length of run. So we're about 100 feet. I think I counted 26 or so fittings. But regardless, I knew I could do a little bit cheaper myself. So I actually just bought all the materials. Didn't have to rent the pipe die or anything. My dad had a nice rigid threader, had all the tools that we needed to between him and I. So we just, we made it work. So we had roughly in our cost, I think the pipe, all the pipe dope and all the materials that we had, clamps, whatnot, I think we had around $400. So big difference between $1,750 and $400. So I'll take that any day. Not everything goes as planned though. So the check that I did in the end, that was after I had everything together. I actually pressure checked half the line to 1 day because it took us 2 days to finish it up. I wanted to see if we had any leaks. So when we finished up the first day, I did check it, and sure enough, we had a leak. And what had happened was it was leaking right here on this coupler. When I pressurized the line, I could actually hear the air leaking out of it. So it was a pretty fast leak. To get these elbows on, we had to pry this line out away from the wall enough that you could turn that elbow. And somehow, I think we had pried a little bit too hard, and down the line, down there, it actually cracked that coupler. Once we found the leak, we took a look at the coupler, and it split the coupler on the one end. So never done that before. You know, that's 1 inch pipe. Very surprised that that coupler split like that. But either it was a bad coupler to begin with, or we did put a little bit too much pressure on it when we were prying that out. And so when we put it back together, we had to take it all the way back apart, back to that point there. When we put it back together the second time, we just moved that pipe out ever so slightly to get it in there, to get that elbow twisted in there, and then we had no issues after that. But typically, you'd hang that heater first if you're going in order, but since I'm up here and we're looking at it, so this is the exhaust here for the furnace. It's category 3. That's what they require now. This furnace does have an exhaust fan. They do say in the manual you have to slope it. So it does have a slight slope going to the outside. But this is category 3 and it is expensive. I think this pipe, roughly, I had $250 to $300 in just the pipe. So almost as much as all that gas line. And this is full stainless with gaskets, but it is expensive. I don't think it should be that expensive, but it is hard to find. And price-wise, it's comparable everywhere else I looked. So that's what's required and that's what we used. You know, we had that wall thimble on the inside. A lot of people run it to the outside. With these ribs though, it makes it kind of tough. You gotta cut that down or form it. I found a few other people mention a roof boot. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So I found them on Amazon and they are a high temperature boot. They're made for furnace exhaust, up to 450 degrees. I just like the clean look. And I only had to trim it just ever so slightly to fit between the ribs. But I just think it just looks really nice. And it just seals a lot better. With that thimble, there's a pretty good air gap there. And you have to actually fill that with high temperature silicone. And I didn't like that. Just another maintenance item where, you know, this should last hopefully a lot longer. But, you know, that's kind of how we terminated it. And we are past, you know, past the overhang. Definitely more than a foot. So that's what we did on the outside here. So I'll try to put some of the links of some of the products that, you know, I used in the description. That boot especially, because that one a little tricky to find. And then the next thing, I'm gonna go back up here to the furnace and I'll show you how we mounted that. That's a little tricky too. It's pretty heavy. I kind of cheated. I used the box that it came on, a couple boards and a buddy to help hang it. But here's what we got going on. So I found this bracket made for these type of units. It's like a sling bracket. I can't remember the exact name, but again, I'll link the item in the description. But this gives you the ability to just tie it to one single, in my case, truss. I have 4 legs, structural legs, going up into one truss. And the furnace is about 80 pounds, so not extraordinarily heavy. You know, garage doors are hung all the time on a single truss, and they're heavy, if not heavier, weight-wise. The reason why I could only go from one bracket is my attic is insulated with blown-in insulation. On this side where I wanted to put it, very narrow. You have no headroom to work with at all. So it's been very difficult for me to structurally put something up there in the corner. This is my first truss, so I have nothing else to hang it to in this entire corner structurally, unless I were to go up in the attic and put something between the back truss, which is all the way back behind that board on the back wall. So I'd have to run a board from there all the way to this one up in the attic and try to hit those in 4 different spots for the heater. This worked out great. It's very sturdy. I have no doubts that this will hold up. In addition to those 4, you can kind of see this. I was able to take a longer structural screw, hit it one more time. So I have actually 6 mounting points holding this up. And then these are actual spacers that I made. The reason why I made those is because of the design of this. It kind of wobbled just a slight bit. Structurally, it held fine. It had no problems. But I knew the vibration would cause it to move a little bit. So I just kind of made these spacers, and they're just touching the ceiling just ever so slightly. And, you know, I can move this thing or try to move it, and it does not move. It does not wiggle. So I'm very happy with how that turned out. It is not going anywhere. Design-wise, it looks really good. and I was able to angle it at the angle that I needed to. And all those were important when I was trying to determine how to hang this thing. And then I have, what else going on back here? I have the electrical, just 110, its own circuit. And this is the switch for the furnace, so I can turn it on and off back here if I ever need to work on any electrical. Fairly inexpensive to do electrical if I'm doing it myself. The most expensive part was the wire. I think I had maybe with the wire and the box and switches, maybe $110 in that part of it. So overall cost, that was very inexpensive. Same thing with the thermostat wiring. You can kind of see this brown wiring going over here to the thermostat. Furnace itself, again, is a Mr. Heater, Big Maxx, 80,000 BTU. Now that's the nominal input, they call it. The output's around 64,000. They're 80-some% efficient. So I had $450 in the furnace. Yeah, they do make a lot more expensive ones. I looked at definitely a whole handful of them. And these ones, they get some good and bad reviews. We'll see how it holds up. I can always replace it later on with a more expensive model, but I could probably buy at least 3 of these furnaces for what one of the other ones cost. So again, I just opted for one of these, give it a try, and we'll see how it goes this winter. So just one more thing to finish up the install, and that's the thermostat. This is towards the front of the building here. And you can see right there in the corner. We'll flip the camera around here. So here we have the thermostat itself. Very difficult to see in the daylight here. But there, I'll brighten it up here. I have it set to 40. That was a nice thing that you could set this one all the way down to 40. It's just a Honeywell basic Wi-Fi smart thermostat. I didn't need a lot of features, but the fact that I could set it down to 40 and it was Wi-Fi capable. Simple install, but that kind of completed the whole package, being able to just hook that up. So that kind of completes the install. I kind of wanted just to share that with you guys. We'll see how it does this winter. I'm hoping that it does provide enough heat without the wall insulation that I can come out here and work on some wall insulation. The ceiling does have quite a bit of insulation in it. I think we're above R40, at least in the ceiling, maybe more. And that's where majority of your heat is lost. So I did get to try it on a cold morning. It's about 30 degrees out. We had a little dip in temperatures, and the garage was set to, I think it was 45. And in a matter of about a half hour, it went from 45 to 55. But very excited to see what it does this winter. Cost, everybody always asks cost, and overall project costs, you know, I kind of went through a couple of the costs, the prices as I was going through the video here. But overall, I had roughly $1,900 in the entire project. And $1,900 was very inexpensive, and that included the furnace. If you remember earlier in the video, I mentioned just the black iron pipe install. The plumber wanted $1,750 for that. So a couple $100 more than that, and I have the entire thing installed. Again, very excited and very happy with how this project turned out, and I'll keep you guys updated. So if you guys like this kind of content or videos on my garage, be sure to like and subscribe. Again, I'm gonna try to insulate, but lots of stuff to button up still in the garage, so hopefully I can still provide a bit more content. So till then, take care, guys.